Well, hello everybody. It is November 21st, 2017, and if this dollhouse in this video looks maybe just vaguely familiar to you, it should, and that's because I started working on this dollhouse about a year and 2 months ago, and then had to stop, had to put it on the back burner because life became very busy for me, starting about a year ago, as I was trying to design and create and open a mini museum here in town. Got it done, and it is a big success. So now I am back to trying to resume work on this gorgeous dollhouse that I obtained through Craigslist over a year ago. I say it's gorgeous because it's a Real Good Toys product, and all of their dollhouses are great kits, well designed, sturdy. They're just probably the best on the market now. But this kit, this house, is probably 30 plus years old, and it really looked it. It was very dated, both on the interior and exterior. So I've begun the process back in late September of 2016 to restore it. And in the course of about a month and a half, I did manage to get the exterior done, gave it a whole new paint job, which I'm very pleased with, and also stained the shingles and added some details, including shutters and more trim details. And these windows, which my buddy Jim Talley cut for me on his Zing laser cutter. They're a little dirty and dusty, having kind of just sat around for a year. Those are going to be the replacement windows in the house. So anyhow, I'm glad to finally be back at work, because I've got to get this house done and out of here so I can make room on my work table here for a commissioned project I have that I need to start after the first of the year. And last thing I had done on the interior was made this hardwood floor using cut craft sticks. I get jumbo-sized craft sticks, and then using this Microlux mini table saw, I cut them into strips and basically glue them down to a piece of poster board outside of the dollhouse, and then when it's dry I stain it, let that dry, and then I place it inside the room and glue it down. So this floor was done a year ago, and so it was time for me to resume the floors in the rest of the dollhouse. So what I'll show you is, here's an example of a piece of poster board. It's a white piece of poster board, and it's basically just, it follows the outline of the floor of any given room, and then I spray paint it brown. And the reason I do that is so that when I do put down the wood strips that are the individual floor planks, there's always going to be some gaps. You can see, even just loosely laying, there's some gaps. And that's actually kind of a nice effect I like for these homes that I try to make look more period or older. Flooring over time can warp and certainly bow or constrict and leave these little gaps. If the paper below the strips is painted brown, they won't be as noticeable. I had made the mistake once of just having a white piece of poster board underneath. In fact, you can see it, maybe. See how you can see the white gaps? I was not happy with that. I just wasn't thinking. So in order to avoid that, all the other rooms will have brown painted poster board, and once these strips are stained, while you may be able to still tell there's gaps here and there, you won't see the white within the gaps, and I think that's important. Now this floor over here, it isn't that bad. I mean, if I didn't announce to people that look closely and you'll see white gaps, nobody would even notice. So it's what you call a learning experience. So I, over the weekend, cut out poster board following the perimeter of all the rooms, and you see it just slides right in. And the beauty of this system is you don't have to struggle to try to glue the wood strips down inside the rooms. There's so many things that will constrain you. Just drive me crazy. So it's a lot easier to just have your floor base out here, glue everything down, let it dry, stain it, and then as one solid piece, put it in the room and glue it down. So you can see all the rooms now similarly have this poster board, what I just call underlayment piece, all ready to receive the craft sticks. Now I do have right here is one such piece of poster board with the strips glued down. They haven't completely dried, so I'm not going to do anything further with it tonight, but wanted you to see what one of these floor pieces looks like once you do glue all the planks down. And you know, glue as it's curing, as it's drying, there'll be a little bow and warpage. Kind of see it there. But when it's all dry, and especially once you put all the stain on it and let it dry, this will be nice and flat. There won't be any warps or bubbles. This floor was very warped at first, and then once it thoroughly dried, it laid flat. So I'm not at all concerned that at the moment you see this kind of thing going on. It will be like this. Let me go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and put it in the room. And there it is. So again, you see how that's sticking up. When it's final glue, it will not. It'll lay nice and flat. Now what this also serves to demonstrate is when you assemble a dollhouse, you really need to follow the instructions carefully and stick to those instructions. You'll notice here that these walls stacked on top of one another don't quite line up. There's a offset, probably of about an inch. They should be stacked, but they're not. And there's a variety of reasons why that can happen, but if you just pay attention, it really shouldn't happen, but in the case of this house it did. Now I'm not going to try to fix it, it's just not worth it. But the problem it creates is this room, this wall in this room bows in slightly at this end. And you say, so what's the big deal? Well, it's really not a big deal, but I don't know if you can see this very well, but it doesn't, over on this end, the strips are nice and parallel to the wall, and as we move this way, I could tell that because this wall is angled, the strips weren't going to line up nice and evenly. So knowing that in advance, at about this point right here, I started slightly putting spaces between the rows to compensate, so that by the time I got over here to the end, they would still pretty much line up. It's still not perfect, and it's, again, you may not be able to tell, but this piece right here is longer than this piece over here. Not by much, maybe by a 1/4 inch. If you were looking straight down on it, it would be fairly noticeable. Now, once it's in here and glued down, because you look into the room and because of the natural perspective, you probably won't be able to tell it at all. But I can just tell you that while the boards are nice and parallel to the wall on this end, which you'll notice lines up with the wall above it, over here, because this wall cuts into the room, this is actually an angled edge, and I had to do a little trickery with the boards to compensate for that. Again, you probably, if I didn't even bring it up, you probably would have never noticed it. But it's something that when you're rehabbing a dollhouse, you're likely to encounter if the original construction didn't quite follow instructions and have the walls truly stacked on top of each other. Minor detail. But anyhow, this room, I think this is going to be a dining room. And the next room over will be the kitchen. And I'll probably make it the whole thing just kind of a full working kitchen with no eating area inside. That'll justify having this oversized dining room with a see-through fireplace that looks into the family room. So, and I glued all those strips down in the course of about 2 hours. And of course, to make the cuts, everything, you know, there's some angled cuts involved in the back, and you have to have a definite pattern so you have overlap. So I got a lot of use out of my Microlux table saw on this, and will continue to as I move on and do the other rooms. So that's where I am as of November 21st, 2017. Thanks for watching.